The Senate's trust and performance ratings dipped in the second quarter, tugon ng masa survey by OCTA Research. Trust in the Senate fell to 49%, down from 57% in November 2024. Its performance rating also dropped to 47% from 53% previously. OCTA notes that many of the respondents were undecided on the Senate's trustworthiness and performance. In contrast, the House of Representatives saw an improvement. Its trust rating rose to 57% from 49%, while its performance rating climbed to 55% from 47%. Now let's get some insights on that interesting development.
Yeah, we have Attorney Michael Yusingco of the Ateneo Policy Center joining us again via Zoom. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Attorney. Thanks for joining us again.
Good morning to the both of you. Good morning to all your viewers and listeners.
All right, Attorney, let's start off with that recent report that we have. In the last decade or so, it's always been the Senate that has had better trust and performance ratings than the House of Representatives. And it's always been said that the House was the one following Malacanang and ang Senate ang independent. Pero parang ngayon, nag-shift ang perception ng tao. And what do you attribute this to?
I think, Jaco, it's very clear, no? I think the people saw the inaction of the Senate on the impeachment complaint, no, when it was transmitted to it February 5, no? Because very clearly the Constitution says that they must conduct a trial forthwith, no?
Yeah.
So I think yung naging very cavalier sila and nonchalant about it, talagang hindi nagustuhan ng taong bayan yon and lost a degree of trust, kaya ganyan ang resulta ng surveys.
But before we, just in connection to that, no, Attorney, it's very rare kasi na makita mo ang Senado na ganyan, no? But do you attribute this kasi elections was around the corner, around the time na the impeachment was in play, and you all know yung votes ng mga senators are in nature, kailangan niya, it's the whole country ang tina-target niya, whereas yung congressman per district. So parang wala na masyadong fear ang congressman to tackle a popular political figure because alam nila they only need votes from their district.
Yes, that's certainly a fair point, no? But still, no, the reality is because senators run on a national level, syempre yung perception sa kanila is also nationwide, no? And when you see a leader when you see the leader of the Senate acting that way, syempre na-attribute mo yung ganong klaseng attitude dun sa institution itself. So the election, yeah, maybe played a big part, no? Pero you can also argue the election produced Senator Bam and Senator Kiko, right? Na naging senador na rin sila after many times of losing elections, no? So I think para sa akin, if you ask me, the survey results that you just reported, I think that can be directly attributed to the inaction on the impeachment complaint last February.
Attorney, on the Senate pa rin, pero medyo let's gear toward dun sa dito nga sa usapin ng SC ruling. Today, August 6, supposedly mag-convene ng Senado bilang in a plenary, no?
Yeah.
To officially vote kung ano yung magiging action nila dito sa SC ruling. Will they, sabi nga nila, dalawa daw yung magiging scenario. Will they abide by the SC ruling or they will proceed with the trial, which is sabi nga nila medyo impossible yun. So, what do you think what will happen today? Is there a possibility na i-postpone nila yung voting because may mga MR at saka meron pang ine-expect na reply or comment from the Duterte camp in 10 days?
Alam mo, Angela, maybe if the Supreme Court said that they will stay the execution of the decision, baka pwedeng the senators will say, sige, hintayin na lang natin until makapag-decide na yung ng Supreme Court with finality. But the Supreme Court said that the decision stands as immediately executory. No? So even if there's a pending MR, the decision is still immediately executory. So I don't see any reason for the Senate to say na i-postpone na lang natin or hintayin natin, no? Because para sa akin, if you ask me, you should follow the law. And the law is the Supreme Court decision right now. So if you're going to defy the Supreme Court decision by saying, sige, hintayin na lang natin or ituloy natin yung impeachment trial, then that's tantamount to saying we are defying the law.
Kasi attorney, some legal experts have said while the Supreme Court saying it's immediately executory, but in hindsight also there is a provision for the motion of reconsideration, meaning slow chance but there is a possibility that the decision made could be overturned. So ang nasa isip siguro ng iba daw senators was, if we decide to outrightly accept it right now and after 10 days biglang i-reverse ng Supreme Court ang pag-iisip nila, how will the optics look for the Senate? What can they do now na totally nabasura na yung impeachment case?
Yeah, actually the rules provide that an MR stays the execution of a decision, no? Unless the court says that it does not. So yun yung inaasahan namin marami na kapag nag-MR na, the decision will be stayed, no? Yun na nakalagay sa rules, eh.
Yeah.
But the rules also say that unless the court who issued the decision says that it is not stayed. Eh yun ang sinabi ng Supreme Court, di ba, na the decision is still immediately executory. That means sinasabi na nila that even with the MR, the decision is not stayed or is not stopped from being implemented.
Parang
so,
for a attorney, for a regular person, parang conflicting. Pero in other words, are you saying in the absence of a TRO, kailangan i-accept na mamaya ng Senado ang yung ruling ng Supreme Court?
yes, something like that, no? Not that we don't, there's no chance of a TRO anymore, no? Kasi meron na tayong final decision. The MR would have kumbaga parang stop the decision from being implemented. That's according to the rules. But according to the rules also, except if the court says na tuloy pa rin yung desisyon, eh yun ang sinabi ng Korte Suprema, tuloy pa rin, immediately executory pa din. So, unless sabihin ng court ulit na, sige, babaguhin na rin namin, we are staying the execution of the decision, then tigil. But right now, if the Senate decides to continue with the impeachment trial, well, they are defying the Supreme Court decision, and
Baka
that is
mag-constitutional
tantamount to defying
crisis.
the law.
Baka mag-constitutional crisis daw. Pero, attorney, what do you have to say to those petitioners, no, asking the Supreme Court for a status quo, anti-order, and meron pa silang sinasabi na interventions to allow them to intervene para dun sa mga oral argument, etc. What do you say about that? Kasama dito sa mga petitioners na to, a former framer ng Constitution natin, si Christian Monsod, Shelo Magno, Heidi Mendoza. What do you say about that?
Well, that's certainly well within the rights of those petitioners, no?
But
and
how
those
plausible
movements.
is this?
So wala tayong masasabing negative doon, ano? Because that's part of our constitutional process or our constitutional order. Siguro ang personal wish ko lang sana they intervened earlier, no? During the petition itself, the stage where they can still intervene, no? Kasi right now meron ng decision eh. Any intervention right now will be kumbaga up to the discretion of the court, no? Na papayagan pa ba natin to at this late stage of the process. But if they intervened earlier before the decision, the court would have less discretion and would have been compelled to accept their arguments, no? As So sa akin, they can do that, obviously. Okay yan. In fact, that's welcome. But parang sana mas maaga nila ginawa.
But talking about earlier na intervention na maaari nilang ginawa, what do you say about the timing naman ng paglabas nga ng SC ruling? It was on a Friday, before the State of the Nation address of our President.
Yeah.
Kasi some people are questioning the timing about that. What do you have to say about that?
Definitely, it's very surprising, no? To say the least. The fact that it was released on that day, no, 2 days before the SONA, and also that fast, that quick, no? Kasi kaming mga practitioners, ang hinihintay namin, at the very least, baka 3 months yung decision na yan, or 4 months pa nga. But it happened so fast. And also, in addition to that, there was no oral arguments.
Yes, that's right.
So parang mapapakamot ka talaga ng ulo na bakit, di ba? Bakit ang bilis at bakit walang oral arguments? For an issue this controversial and very politically kumbaga invested ang mga tao rito, then dapat sa akin personally again, oral argument should have been conducted, no? But the fact na hindi, tapos ang bilis yung paglabas ng desisyon, nakakagulat. And ang end result actually, Diego and Angela, is a decision that is, well, for me, poorly written, na maraming nahihirapan unawain yung decision mismo.
Pero
Yes,
pag ganyan,
so-
very quick lang, pero pag ganyan, attorney, usually, meron ba tayong history na naiiba? Pero kasi 'di ba, kumbaga, what I mean is unanimous kasi yung vote ng SC 13-0-2 yung yung isa wala, yung isa nag-abstain. Pero 'di ba historically pagka unanimous yung ganyan na boto, hindi na nababago yan kahit mag-MR ka pa. Or merong history.
I mean, that's the conventional thinking, no? But still, there is a chance na baguhin kasi meron lang very recent decision ng Supreme Court that they changed their ruling based on an MR, no? But that's a different topic, but still nangyari pa rin, 'di ba, na nag-MR yung isang party and the Supreme Court changed its ruling. So it is still possible, but gaya na sabi mo, 13-0 unanimous yung decision, baka highly improbable na lahat sila magbabago or even majority of them will change their minds.
That's right. They need 7 no, to overturn that. But attorney, one plausible scenario and the possible scenario sa Senate is if they decide, let's say, no, hindi naman nila susuwayin yung Supreme Court, pero sabihin ng senador, mag-antay tayo, let's defer the voting for 10 days, wait for the MR, pero hindi naman isa-start or they won't reconvene the impeachment court. Technically, they're not going against the ruling of the Supreme Court. Is this another safe scenario that the Senate can look into?
Yes, it is a safe scenario, as you say, Diego. But again, I go back to the words of the decision, and I can speak only on the decision itself, and that it is immediately executory. So, yeah, saying let's wait for 10 days or 15 days, that's probably, kumbaga, parang letting the pro-impeachment senators, parang giving them a bone or something. But in the end, no, the decision must still be followed because it is the law now.
Pero go ahead.
Well, I was wondering kasi we had former Senate President Franklin Drilon over a few days ago, and we also asked him this question about sa tingin po ba ninyo nagkaroon nga ng judicial overreach ang Supreme Court sa kanilang ruling na ito, and he said yes. He feels na nagkaroon nga daw ng judicial overreach, but he urged the Senate to abide by it to avoid nga daw the constitutional crisis. Your thoughts on that po?
If you read the decision, you will certainly feel that there is judicial overreach, no? Kasi the tenor of the decision, the way it is written kasi, parang nangangaral siya ng mga mambabatas eh. Parang tinuturuan niya like a law professor na, kasi hindi niyo binasa yung assignment niyo, ganito dapat ang gawin ninyo. No? So, if you read it, of course you will feel that there's judicial overreach. No? But if you really analyze the words, I mean the content, kung ano yung sinasabi ng Supreme Court, wala naman silang sinasabing bago eh. Wala naman silang sinasabing, kumbaga, hindi maganda. In other words, they are just merely actually regurgitating principles that we already know. It's just the way that it was written kasi, very condescending yung
Yeah, yung tono.
parang sinasabi niya sila mga mababatas. O yan kasi hindi kayo marunong ng due process, ito ang due process.
And supposedly, hindi dapat nakikialam dahil co-equal branches sila on the processes ng each branch of government.
Yeah. And finally lang, before we let you go, I'd like to ask, ano yung comment mo sa tono ni House Speaker Martin Romualdez reminding the Supreme Court that they are also impeachable officials?
Well, I think that's irresponsible, no? Kasi that is really inviting a constitutional crisis, no? Kasi if you think about it, kung lahat ng Supreme Court justices ay ma-impeach, ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin nun, the President will be given the privilege to appoint 15 justices, right? So, I mean, that's irresponsible. An irresponsible proposal to make.
Yeah, but mahaba-haba pa to. And later on, we'll see right after the Senate decides on this. In the meantime, thank you very much for your time, Attorney Michael Yusingco of the Ateneo Policy Center.